Good evening. I'd like to call the Conservation Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Agency meeting for Tuesday, June 20th to order. We don't have any alternates to be defeated today, and we have a quorum. So we'll move on to approval of minutes. Did anyone have any changes?
There were some minor typos. If we care to correct them.
We can correct them.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure. Do you want me to point out where they are?
let me, do you want to, is it marked up?
It is.
So do you want to send it to me or
Sure.
give it to me and then
Yeah.
we can do the minor stuff?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So
Yeah,
with
nothing content.
anyone else, any other corrections? Without objections, we'll file those minutes. Moving on to item 3, new applications for receipt and determination of significance. Application CNC number 23-26 at 894 Hot Meadow Street LLC, owner Charles Houlihan. Applicant for the wetlands permit to fill 3,229 square feet of wetlands associated with the construction of a 53,773 square foot mixed use residential building at 894 Hot Meadow Street. Assessors map H09, block 227, lot 004A, Simsbury.
So this was a redevelopment application that came to us and it's submitted for 895 Hot Meadow Street. It's going to be a mixed use development with the demolition of the original house, first floor commercial, and then of approximately 37 units, 5,000 square feet of retail. The wetlands, as you'll see on the map, are located in the rear of the property, the wetland soils. A soil scientist provided his report. He went out and he delineated the soils on the property and he found this isolated patch of wetland soils at the rear of the property. And so due to the on-site wetland soils, staff would recommend determining that significant and going for hearing. And here's a rendering. The applicant's here, or the lawyer for the applicant's here to answer any questions on that.
Should I go over here?
Yeah, sure.
Let me just make a couple of comments. On the issue of,
Do you want to identify yourself?
Charles Houlihan, applicant. And on the issue of significant impact activity, we have the report with professional wetlands scientist. He called it a small pocket of wetland soil. It's 0.22 acres down adjacent to Iron Horse Boulevard. The grading and there's going to be proper erosion control. His conclusion was it would have no adverse environmental impact. I assume that the statement is probably in your materials already. We also have an engineer's report, stormwater management. Currently, there is no stormwater management systems on the property. He describes it as currently a low functioning wetland. The plan is to make it a higher functioning wetland. It's classified as zone X, which is a minimum flood hazard. The wetland area is 4 to 5 feet below Iron Horse Boulevard. And so that prevents overflow onto the street. The retention systems that will be installed will treat the water quality volume to meet Simsbury standards. And it's designed so that there'll be no increased runoff for the 100-year storm. We think that the proposed development and the storm management are going to end up improving the property in terms of environmental condition. The opinion that's going to be a higher functioning wetland seems supported in both of the experts. And so based on that, I would suggest that there is no significant impact activity.
When you say it's going to be a higher functioning wetland, and I know you're doing the water remediation of the stormwater runoff, is there going to be another wetland
No,
No,
no, it's
so
gonna
it's
be
not
the
gonna
same.
be, it will improve the stormwater, but I don't think we can really say it's an improvement of the wetland. There is no wetland.
Well, it's
It's
wetland,
just- it's
it's
stormwater
wetland soil.
improvement.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, except for heavy rains, it's dry
Yeah.
and just grass is there.
Just a technical point, there won't be a higher functioning wetland, it'll just be
Well,
improved stormwater.
that's what our engineer.
So there's wetland soils there now.
Will they still be there after?
And that's, the idea is that the applicant will disturb them and in the end, create a higher
There
functioning,
will be,
yes.
yes, that's right.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
So that then planted with wetland plants,
Right,
so it'll be more like a rain garden.
yep. So, and I just want to also point out, we've referred the application to our engineering staff, so they are currently looking at it as well. And come back with
All
any
right, so that
comments.
will be, sorry, that's that correct?
Yep.
That's really all I have to.
Right there. I did notice in the plan, I always go for the planting plan. And I know it did say that you will be putting in native plants, but looking through the plant selection. The majority of them are non-native hybrids. So we would recommend changing them to more native species. I mean, we've got a lot of non-native species, and periwinkle, no, I mean, it's a lovely invasive plant, so please don't. But there's some lovely native plants which would, I think, serve the purpose and increase the environmental benefits of this. of the planting. Thank you, which the non-natives won't. They're pretty, but they're pretty useless.
Currently back there, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of grassy.
Yes. So it has that sharp drop.
Which location is this?
This is where Rush Bowl is now, Tom Hurley's old insurance office. Going back a ways.
Almost right across the street.
Mhm.
But generally, when there is a filling of wetland soil or an alteration of wetland soil, that's when. You know, things get stepped up to the next level, so a public hearing just brings it up, just so we're crossing the Ts and.
I'm gonna say generally with any filling, especially of this size, we do hold a public hearing.
And also when it's, you know, in an area that is a significant interest to the public. So we have two criteria that we're sort of crossing. I don't think from a technical standpoint, it gets to a very significant piece, because I think it's been well handled, but we would typically have a public hearing for an activity like this.
I think by our, general practice on the commission. We do anything that's filling wetland soils, even if it's currently low functioning, we would have a public hearing, so.
So we need we have any,
We just need a vote to schedule it for public hearing.
okay,
So there's no,
no
the motion is to schedule for public hearing.
A motion that we find that it is a significant activity due to it containing wetland soils and there being activity in them, and we schedule it for a public hearing on our July 18th,
July 18th.
meeting.
Second.
all in favor? That's unanimous, and if you, we'd be happy to work with you on the planting.
Yep, we'll make sure there's an updated planting plan.
Very good.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 4. Application CC number 23-19 of Frank and Catherine Jocelyn, owners for a wetland permit to construct a 572 square foot addition in the upper review area at 20 Saddle Ridge Drive. Assessors map C07, block 212, lot 031, Simsbury.
So this was an application that came before you originally in May, at the May 16th meeting. It's an addition on the side of the home, approximately 572 square feet. It It is about 40 feet from the water course. It's a swampy marsh area. And the engineer, and there's a bit of a slope going towards that. So the engineering had some comments, including area of disturbance, where the silt, where the sediment and erosion control measures will be, as well as where the footing drain will discharge. So they answered those questions. One item that I added as a condition that was added as an engineering comment later was just to ensure that there's ground protection in the area of disturbance. They recommend that for slopes of a certain steepness. So that's, if you'll notice, that's going to be on that motion.
What were they recommending for ground protection?
Let's see.
Silt.
Yeah, it was,
Silt fence and-
yes, yeah,
All right.
silt fencing and then the ground silt on the ground.
All right. Any questions from the commissioners? I would entertain a motion. I think we have one before us.
Sure, I'll,
Thank you.
I'll move that the commission approves. And that's the right one. Yes, I'm sorry. The application CC 2319 of Frank and Catherine Johnson owners for the wetland permit to construct a 572 square foot addition of the upland review area at 20 Saddle Ridge. Since the project will not adversely impact the water course and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right, that's unanimous as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, for Victoria Lane, an addition and deck that is located in the rear property. This was heard at and determined non-significant at the June 6th meeting.
I can't do anything within the prompt. Good evening, Terry Hahn, LADAPC land planners. We're the site plans for the project. The applicants are here in case you have any specific questions. So there's an existing building. Do you have those annotated photographs?
I did, I put one up
Okay,
there.
that's perfect. Yes. So it's an existing house, originally constructed in 1960s. When you look at that picture where the deck is, that's where the kitchen actually is right now. And it's a 1960s kitchen, and they'd really like it to be a 2023 kitchen. So in order to do that, basically we're taking and replacing the deck with an addition, same height and same area of disturbance as what's there now, and then extending the deck towards the garage. So it's basically in an area that had previously been disturbed. The septic system is downhill of this property. The entire property is in the upland review area. So when I add the silt fence in and, potential disturbance, we end up with about 800 square feet of disturbance. Strictly pilings, it's not a lot of stripping, there's not a lot of exposed ground. Just overall, that's what we're talking about for the upland review area. As you can see, it's kind of an active area, so there's no real plantings. So there's no actual plantings. I can't really do anything between the deck and the septic system anyway. So that's, and I don't really want to go past that if I don't have to. So there's really no plantings to speak of in this particular case.
Any questions from the commissioners?
There's no plantings in this case, but the following condition is number 2 was that native plants were replanted and invasive plant species removed. Is that?
I think that's just, to the greatest extent.
It's not anything in particular that's proper standard conditions.
No, I think, yeah, and that was discussed at the last
Yeah, it's a standard.
meeting.
I mean, the idea was that, could we do something, but we're not actually anywhere near the woods edge or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, last time I was here, we clearly had an invasive species problem, but in this case, we're sucked up against the house.
Yeah.
So we're not really doing anything.
But if you have any.
If we have any,
Yeah.
yes.
Always.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. Any other question?
What's a sonotube?
That is that cardboard round tube that they use to pour concrete in that becomes the post for a deck, so you can see it. So underneath, you know, a deck, a post, there's this round thing, it looks like a base of a light pole or something like that. That cardboard component is called a sonotube.
Thank you.
No problem. Helps minimize it, because there's no footing or foundation,
Right,
because of other conditions on the site.
they just augured those out.
Yep.
Any other questions? Entertain the motion.
I'll move that we approve the application CC 2325 for Todd and Andrea Burke owners. For the 321-foot addition, and 375 square foot deck, the upper review area for Victoria Lane, subject to the standard, the conditions in the staff report, and because the project will not adversely impact the wells.
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
General commission business. I have. I'll do it under conservation. Okay, agent action?
No agent action.
That's right, go on to conservation business. I know we received the P O C D, or the link to the draft P O C D. I think next Tuesday,
A planning meeting.
planning meeting,
Yes.
and they will be accepting comments.
Yes.
But I know I reviewed half of it today. I will have a few
Okay.
comments. I won't be able to send a meeting, but I will send the comments in.
Yes, you can email them to me and then I'll make sure that the church.
If anyone wants to add some, review it, and this is our big chance.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I can't be at the meeting either. I don't know how this happens, but it's, I gotta be at a conference.
But that would be,
Would it be possible if we overview your comments to
we'll see if
from the commission?
I will see if I can get them done tomorrow
Okay.
on my docket. Yeah, there weren't a lot, there were just a few things that I thought one of my concerns was, there was a statement in the, current draft that seemed to pit open space against, affordable housing, which I thought was not quite worded the way it should be. So,
That must be a new statement.
I think so.
Okay.
It's been floating around for some.
Yeah, but I
time.
don't remember that in the.
I don't remember the old one.
Yeah.
But it was just strangely worded, so I'd like to comment on that. The other, was something else. I mean, they've incorporated some of the things we mentioned in our comments. But this is our time to make
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta get serious.
And then, about a month or so ago, I did go on a walk with, there was a group from the Pollinator Pathways. Kyle, where's Kyle? Here tonight. Kyle, was there, and Amber Heard, for second, Amber, no.
Oh, right.
Oh, right, okay. Amber Heard is. Anyway, we went out to look at the Barndo Hills Triangle, and, with, a fellow from the DEEP, Pete McComb, who is, knowledgeable on these things, and he came to look at, evaluate the site for habitat, recognize that it's an extremely valuable site habitat, except it's highly contaminated with not Japanese, mugwort and oriental bittersweet. And he recommended mowing now, but it may require some other remedial treatment in the future to get it to the point where they could actually do reseeding, to bring up, to add more diversity to the plants, because right now it's mugwort and oriental bittersweet, so that it could become wonderful grassland bird habitat. I know that the open space committee had put forward several months ago to the town, as a town policy for mowing only in certainly after bird nesting. It's now sort of getting to that, after bird nesting. and not on only mowing once a year, but this is such a bad situation. It's a beautiful piece of land, but it's got a lot of biological pollution on it. So it's something that the town's gonna really have to, I think, address, and as a conservation commission, we should be, you know, supporting this plan. I can send this plan around to the commissioners for their review. I should have done that before, but I will send that from Pete Capone. I know it will be discussion at the next open space meeting.
Okay.
This actually shows why in each of our sets that we have recommendations or best practices, there has to be
Except,
a review system for when something comes up. And that was always some of my concerns with a lot of the policies that we're trying to put out,
Yeah.
that they were black and white. There was no review system built in for when you had a question.
yeah, but it still allows us to do.
Right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right, but
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
that's important. It's just, as we try to adopt more best practices,
Yeah.
just to make sure that we aren't getting ourselves in a situation where we're over regulating something you can't figure out
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the cases.
So, and in this case, it's, it would compete with, you know, how do we do management for the grassland birds? And how do we address invasive plant species? So Yeah.
And how do you,
blend those two together.
well, and how, when you do make a decision, which you will make, how do you evaluate that? Or when you go on to do it a couple of years later?
Mm.
And that's another one of my things, is some of these things we're just not gonna know. You're gonna make a decision, you have to have a feedback mechanism.
Yeah, and one of the things we also, I think the open space committee wants to work on is an invasive plant management
And-
policy.
Well, or even just a half a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a good example of a case study that you could use.
Yeah, so this will be a good learning experience for the town, how to do this as well, because we haven't been. And you know, it goes to the issue of the management of invasive plants. 20 years ago, I don't think it would have been this problem.
Right.
Now, you know, gardening consists of removing invasive plants from the yard on a continual basis. So, you know, so we need to get, you know, it's a beautiful, Pete Cohn was saying this was an absolutely spectacular site that could be a model for a lot of other places, and he's been involved in field remediation of such sites that have, you know, dreadful invasive plant problems on it. So it should be an interesting project.
It actually brings up the point I was going to talk about tonight, which is I walked along the entrance from that's the Stratton Brook Trail that goes from Stratton Brook in. That place where they made a road, an aquarium, and I was complaining about it, you know, a couple of years ago. And the good news is a lot of the poison ivy's been overrun by whatever that.
Japanese,
No,
Oriental
it's actually, it's like a left, right twist stuff,
Oriental bittersweet.
which is all over the place.
Yeah.
And they planted back then like a couple of flowers, which are kind of shrubs that are just buried. But that entire thing is a wreck.
It is.
And if we want some case studies on how not to do this stuff, we ought to be going back and looking at that and putting that in some best practices,
I know.
because that's terrible. It's gonna take a long time to get that clear.
I know that they've put in, especially since it got more light in the area.
Yes,
That's when you get those invasive plants, and I know they did plant some little evergreens, and they're just being,
but also the straw stuff that was put in to sort of protect the stream is still there.
Yeah.
A lot of the banks are bare, so we haven't, you know, it's just really bad news.
Yeah.
And so you've got a beautiful meadow that you're trying to work on, and we've got this mess. And so we ought to put both of these things onto how do we do a better job next time.
you know, then there's so many places where we go in, we strip, and then we just put down grass, which
Right.
conservation meadow mix would be a better choice.
Right.
Um,
And
Yeah, there's a lot of things that, you know,
But I don't think we actually had any jurisdiction over that because of what was going on. So,
it's aquarium, yeah.
yeah,
Water company, yeah.
I do think there's a lesson learned there, which is why I brought it up.
I was just there last week and I was horrified
Yeah.
to see what, and it is, you know, it's right next to a stream. Treating it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot of hard work, and that goes back to your invasive species plan.
We need that. Yeah, so, I know I've got, California as a invasive plant management document. I thought was very worthwhile. I'm just gonna bring that to the open space. I'll send that here as well.
The one nice thing about the Stratton Brook issue is with a little bit of concerted effort, it's a small area. You know, so if we had a plan and, you know, some Eagle Scouts and a couple other things, you could actually make some hay on this.
It could, except the Iron Street has tough roots.
Yeah, but that's where you have, that's where.
I always think that every time
Boy
they went
Scouts is
out,
fine. Eagle Scouts, they're already done with
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You gotta
that's
get
right.
Younger Scouts.
I always think that everyone on a walk, pulled out 10 plants on each walk, each day, we might take it in.
Yeah, and as long as you actually had that sort of, you know, broadcast, you could actually make a pretty significant dent in a place like that.
Yeah.
Right. So that was what I wanted to bring up to the conversation.
Good. Good.
And just as a side question, when you do pull all this stuff up, where do you put it? Like I chopped down a burning bush, I took it to the dump. in My friend's trailer, but what do I do with it? If I
So,
don't have a trailer.
so if it's not in seed, I mean, this is a good time of year to cut down burning bush because it's flowered but it has a set seeds. You can, it's not going to spread. That's one that's not going to spread. You can always, depending on the size, you can just turn it upside down. It's not going to reroot. Some of them you leave the smallest portion, and Japanese knotweed, you leave the small portion on the ground, it will reroot. So it depends, it's highly dependent on the,
Can I throw it through a chipper?
yeah,
Okay.
before it seeds. Once it seeds, no. Yeah, but it does depend. I think, the Connecticut Invasive Plant Working Group website has good, ideas of what, and I think we put it on our own web, we can look at-
It's
on
not
our town,
website.
it's on the town website, I think.
Should be.
How, what, because I put links to the University of
Of
Penn
invasive,
State, yeah.
yes, I think I did see
and they
that.
did have,
What to do?
what to do.
We're in the burning bush. Safely, of course.
Because it's a burning bush. Yeah, no, it's kind of green, but yeah, that one's not a problem, you just turn it upside down.
I did the Russian olive, I took that to the dump.
Yeah, I don't know if the dump wants all this stuff.
Well, it's in their brush, you know, I had to pay for
Oh, okay. All
it.
right.
You know, I had a trailer and that was like $20 for a trailer load or whatever.
Yeah.
I went up to a dumpster and threw it in.
Yeah, but as long as it's not in fruit,
Mhm.
you know, it's not one of the ones that has the invasive roots, and it's, you know, pile it up somewhere and.
If I'm worried about chipping it and then making
No,
it worse.
that won't help, that's not a problem with it, no. Turn it to mulch. Any other,
I had one, I know previous to me, we had talked about no mow May and discussed asking the Board of Selectmen to amend the ordinance, so people couldn't be fined for practicing no mow May. I wanted to continue that discussion. I did do no mow May. Had at least one nest of cottontails because of it. And I know we probably need to find some sample language to send the Board of Selectmen's way, but if there's still the will,
it does get to the whole issue of, I don't think the town has a weed management.
we have,
We have a blight
Blight
ordinance,
ordinance.
yeah,
right?
and
So if it's grass is over 12 inches.
That's always
Blight.
interesting,
I
because
can
we've been trying to get, you know,
get,
higher grass over at Simsbury Farms, but, I think we need to reevaluate the blight ordinance.
yeah, I mean, so we're not as aggressive as some other communities. I know during May, there was a current article about some guy in West Hartford and their ordinance is 6 inches.
That's
And-
not, so that's not true. It's 12
Oh.
inches there. I
Oh,
read
okay.
that article and I was.
All right, I was surprised to see 6.
Yeah,
I was very surprised to see 6, but that's.
was it on public land or private land?
I believe it was private land.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that. I thought it was
Okay,
12.
either way, if you do no mow May, you're going above 12.
Uh-huh.
And I think, you know, something that if people want to do, it's good for a whole bunch of critters. We shouldn't have the threat of fines on the books.
Yeah, there's blight and there's blight. I mean, I think George said there's some house like 50-something Great Pond. It's been vacant for 20 years, literally. There are 2 cars in the driveway with 4 flat tires each. Nothing has been done to that property for 20 years. That's
Yeah.
blight.
Right.
If your house is painted, you're maintaining it, and for 1 month it grows up to 14 inches, there shouldn't be a big deal. Because you will maintain it
Right,
later. You know, it's not a,
by the current town statute.
correct,
you-
but the statute should be
Right,
a vacant, abandoned, continuing.
But it also goes
issue.
to if you are
It's-
planning, if you have a large front lawn and you want to do a meadow type planting,
Like,
that shouldn't be considered a blight.
on West Mountain, Katrina. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
That house, it used to be all manicured lawn when I was
Yeah,
a kid.
yeah.
Now half of it's meadow, or
yeah.
and
it looks better.
beneficial
Yeah.
and,
But
yeah,
it's
I
not
mean,
blight because,
I think there's a conservation argument, and I think we should flesh out what we really want to say to the board of selectmen and updating that, but yeah, I don't think that we should, be able to fine people for doing things that are better ecologically, even if it may, to some, not look aesthetically appealing. Because my wife was not happy about no mowing. She let me do it.
I'd have to think about how that could work into some sort of, exemption.
Yeah, I don't know if there's other towns that have
I
wording
don't know
we could look
either.
at.
I don't know either.
We've been so lawnmower driven in
Right.
our landscaping.
This is a pretty new concept too, so
I know, and they're trying
I
to get out
doubt
with
other
Simsbury
towns.
Farms. I mean, last year, it didn't, only somewhat successful because it was so dry, but they had a lot of positive comments of the no mowing of the lower section of Simsbury Farms. In some area, and I know they've extended it in several areas of the golf course, and they look good.
do you know of many people that do it?
No, some,
I know half of my backyard, it's over 20 years, it's a meadow with paths through it. I mean, it looks designed because there are paths and mowed around the edge. I mean, that's one of the, things that keeps it looking neat. And that's one of the things they're doing at Simsbury Farms. Just by mowing the edge, it makes it look like they're taking care of it.
Yes, like it's on for purpose.
It's
correct, that's on
designed.
purpose, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a random.
And then if you stick a statue in the middle, it's even better. Then you can be like Storm King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I mean, just the diversity of animals that use my yard, I mean, there was way more wildlife, not just pollinators. I mean, we had at least one cottontail nest because of it, there was way more birds.
Does it attract animals you don't want?
The bears are the only animals I don't want hanging around my house, and they're anyways.
Yeah, you have to deal with the bears.
I mean, we have coyotes and bobcats that come through, they eat some of the bunnies.
Yeah, more fireflies. I know where. They have more places to hide.
So it's not just for bees, it's for a
No,
lot of
There's
different.
a lot
Yes.
of different, there's more insects.
How about things like ticks?
I have chickens.
There's gonna be ticks.
I will say,
But you
we,
can also, the ticks are carried by the mice, so you can put
Or
it,
chipmunks,
or chipmunks,
the vectors,
yes. So
as they
then
call
you can, there are ways of attracting hawks to your yard or owls.
plenty of
There are
those
ways
too.
to, put up, posts so they can hunt for you. Use that for food, use the food chain. I feel like,
We have hawks all over, yeah, we're overrun with chickens, I wish they would get them.
Yeah,
but do they have a stand where they can just sit and
We
watch?
have a lot of tree rare wood right behind us, they
Yeah, but-
sit there, I see them look
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
but I've never seen one attack a chipmunk. I'm like, they were right here, what are you doing over there?
But anyways, but there are ways of addressing the ticks as well, so it's, the fair law is not the only way to do it.
I will say, we have a fenced in part where our kids play skate, we did mow that area, because
Yeah.
kids are out there a lot, but the front yard, backyard was totally unmowed. It was
There's,
awesome.
there are lots of areas in our yards we don't go, I mean, in the current zoning we have, it, they have the R40 zoning and the R80 zoning. There's an awful lot of areas we don't use mowing the whole thing.
Yes.
So you can make stands for hawks.
Yeah, Yeah, this tall post with grass pot.
How tall?
12 feet. Let's sit up there. Then look.
Yeah, put that right next to the patio.
I don't want any more hawks. They're always watching my chickens.
So it's always something.
We had one come, my wife was out with the chickens and one took a shot at the chickens and landed 3 feet away from her. Missed the chicken, saw her at the last minute, landed right next to her. She's like, what the? Got bold.
Yeah.
I did see a bald eagle on the Farmington in Collinsville.
Yeah.
I went, you go to the dam and take a left, you're going up to the cut, and then up Route 4, was right at that intersection, so that's.
Nice to see.
Yeah, they're everywhere these days.
I haven't seen them this year, but there is a pair along Farmington in town.
No, in Simsbury?
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
At least
I-
one.
I just saw that, I was randomly driving, so.
We're lucky to have the wildlife. right? What was fun? Anyone else, anything?
I'm pretty sure Pete Pacone recently released a new native planting guide. He had like enhancing backyard habitat guide, I think in the nineties.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure an updated version or something like that was released. I'll look it up and share it with the group.
Good. He-
I remember
he-
hearing
he-
about
he
that.
had a list with numbers of what nurseries carrying
Mhm.
things, yeah.
Yeah.
But, no, if we do that, Barn Door Hills thing, he will. You might all be interested in joining, he will take us to, a field that he has planted with lovely Monarda, and he will let us collect the seeds. And then teach us how to do the seeding.
Well, I would be very interested.
Yeah.
We also leave the back edge of our backyard to back to the bike path, growing with whatever grows back there and,
Nice to supplement.
yeah.
All right. So, it could be a great learning experience. Right. Anything else? And so,
I moved to adjourn.
thank you. All right, all in favor?
I,
All right. Okay.